So I'm Cynthia, and I'm the host of the reality series, CPS the Horror Stories. I'm not an attorney or a social worker, but I am a mom who is very familiar with Child Protective Services as they kidnapped my two children a few years ago. After 2 years of fighting, I did get my kids back, and now I've created this platform to allow parents to come on here and share their story, their truth about how their children or child have been kidnapped by CPS. I apologize, I have the hiccups, which I get often. Dealing with CPS, there's so much corruption, there's so much trauma that comes with it, and devastation as they remove your kids screaming, sometimes babies, from the breast of the mother, and then make you deal with it. And it doesn't just end when they hand you your child back. If you get your kids back, it is a forever lasting traumatic encounter. So will you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves? Tell me where you're from, what you do, and a little bit of background of you two.
Okay. Well, my name is Sofia Luis, aka Davis. We're married. I'm from Portugal, Azores Islands. I came to United States by myself. I was 17 years old, for a better life.
In the pursuit of happiness.
The pursuit of happiness, that is very true. For a better life, and unfortunately, CPS took that away from me. I came here to raise my children, be happy, be able to buy a home, be able to work, have a better job, and all that stuff. So I came to the United States by myself, very independent, hardworking, and, I did meet my ex-husband. I did have a daughter with him. Unfortunately, that was a really horrible experience of emotional abuse, physical abuse. It was just a horrible experience for 11 years. I finally was able to get away from that. I did meet my husband now. We are happy, and he's a great husband. No issues. It's just amazing. I wish I would have met him before, but that's how life works.
If you had met him before, there's a possibility that you wouldn't have appreciated him much.
Yeah, that is very true. We both had to go through our very rough encounters in the past to appreciate, what we have. But I'm Mike Davis. We both are employees at UPS. My wife's actually on a little bit of a leave right now, though, just because of everything going on and trials and things like that going on. She'd rather stay home.
What did you say you do?
UPS. We both work at UPS.
We're both employees there.
Got it.
So, But that's, for work, that's what we do. We have our two boys. Obviously, we have our daughters too. Our daughters, we had to make a very tough decision with our daughters to let non-custodial parents have a little bit of a chance to get back in their lives, and that really didn't work well for us either. Through a lot of what's gone on right now. So in that sense, my daughter, she did start college.
The only child really that you can't say the name is the one that has been removed.
Okay.
That isn't with you anymore.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Got it. All right. So but after me and my wife, we pretty much had to go through a lot on day 2 of life when he was born. So we just pretty much.
Okay, I was gonna say it because he keeps saying his name. So we got together, me and my husband, and it's been a roller coaster since we got together with his mother as well. So I left my physical abusive relationship with my daughter. We started living together. We were at his mother's house for a little bit. Our lives were doing good. We had money, everything, and we were getting ready for a home. So we were about to move out of our house. We paid rent there. We did everything we were supposed to. We got out of there. But unfortunately, his mother, she's not the nicest person out there. And she's done a lot of harm to us, to him in the past, and she did to us as well.
That sounds bad, though, right there, because she's making it sound like there's a dependency on the mother thing or something here. And that's certainly not the issue. But the reason that she brought that up is because that's where our nightmare did actually start.
Yeah, that's what I was talking
when we first had to.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Before we start, tell me again where you guys live.
Manteca, California. We live in it's Northern California near Stockton, in between Stockton and Sacramento, Modesto area.
Okay, I'm Southern California.
Okay. Cool. Here it's nice down there. Okay.
So, okay, now it doesn't sound, Sophia, like you've had a past with CPS, but have either of you had a past with CPS, either as children, like in foster care, or anything like that?
No, no, it started at the same time for both of us. I mean, never. I was a single dad for 14 years. You know, my daughter was, she was with me at all times. So I had, you could say CPS. They definitely just hate me as an individual, but I never had any actual like run-ins with them, and I wasn't aware that they could just make a PCO and just, just kidnap your child either. But they had things really off with us, certain things, in the case, and so it just turned into a real nightmare. But it did start all at one time about three years ago, for both of us when they came into our lives. So, but yeah, before that, no CPS. We did have, I probably should mention, we did have CPS get involved for the ex-husband of hers. He's really a number if you met him, but he was saying very sexually inappropriate things to his daughter, and like the words rape and things like that. And so he had to get supervised visitation from CPS.
But I had full custody
for a while. Yeah, still the custodial parent, of course, but
yeah.
But we actually are the ones that gave him a second chance, trying to put it at least into like maybe he was just, maybe it was a jealousy thing, maybe he just didn't want. So he's a little weird and everything, but we shouldn't have given him a second chance. Nothing's really changed with the guy, although I don't know if he's saying those words anymore. But that's it. So Ash, that's okay. I say Ash. Sorry. I gotta come up with nicknames for him or something. But yeah, that wasn't really us. But we did.
We can edit videos, so don't worry.
Okay, sorry.
Just easy.
So yeah, we had our son. Last 2019, January 2019.
18.
2018, not 19. I'm sorry. January 2018, we had our son, the one who is in foster care right now. He was born with a very rare brain condition.
Was having 100 seizures.
Yes.
Over 100 seizures a day on just day 2 of life. Right after Nathan was born, literally day 2 of his life, it was actually the middle of the night one night, and I was watching his movements, and something just was off, and I noticed that he was having small seizures.
Still in the hospital?
No, actually no. We weren't in the hospital. We were already home. Surprisingly, they didn't want me to stay in the hospital I had Mikey. I mean, my older brother. I had older brother with me, and yeah, it was pretty strange. I kind of think it has to do with the fact that there was an issue with the doctor when he was pulling Nathan out, and even the midwife was.
We gotta work on not saying his name.
I'm sorry, jeez.
Let's think
I say it so many times a day right now.
My son.
Okay, my son. Sorry. Okay.
Or,
Anyway,
or maybe like, hold on. Okay, so just as a quick recap, you guys had the baby, your son. What day was he born?
he was born on January 15th of 2018.
Okay.
Here in the town we live in.
And what day did you guys get sent home?
2 days after. 2 days after.
Yeah, I guess it would be the 17th, early morning the 17th.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you got home, then stuff started happening with him?
Yeah, it was happening pretty quickly. I think even inside of her stomach, she thought he had like the hiccups or something. And I just it's very weird how I just knew that something was wrong. I don't know how to explain it. Even early on in her pregnancy, I was telling her to eat more and like just being weird because I just, something was telling me, his brain. And so I was like watching him as it happened. Of course she was super tired and so from everything, and she was asleep. And it just became clear when I seen his eyes roll back. And we immediately went to the emergency room, and they hooked him up to tubes, and we saw him. Next thing you know, well, she was on a helicopter with him to Oakland, and we were inside the children's hospital.
Yeah, he was admitted in Oakland, and the doctors, they couldn't diagnose him. They gave us a lot of diagnoses during his stay there. It was just a horrible experience.
The reason that I was bringing up the doctor before is because it was kind of brought to our attention that what he ended up being diagnosed with, which is hemimegalencephaly, it's very hard to pronounce that. It kind of comes from, a lot of the cases are from when the child's born, from oxygen deprivation, or from the birth not being performed right, if you will. Yeah. So, and I actually did see him grab.
The doctor grabbed him?
Yes, he was trying to pull him out, and the midwife, he tried to pull him. I mean, and the midwife was like, or the doctor kind of like stopped and like put his hands up, like just out of instinct, like if you would make a mistake. And she said, "Don't stop. You have to go. You have to pull him out." And we watched that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And in my eyes, of course, I'm standing there and I'm just like, oh my gosh, nothing better be wrong with my son, dude. Like, what are you doing, man?
His face expression was like this, like, what did I just do? You know what I mean?
And so,
like, what
was
happened?
he pulling him out by?
With his hands, and no suction or cups or anything like that. It was.
But what body part of the baby was
by his head? His head. Yeah. And so, not too long after that, my son was born. Everything else went pretty well in terms of the birth. Once he came out, he was climbing up mom pretty well, and he looked amazing. I guess it kind of went away for a second. Any thoughts that maybe he wasn't wrong, or I mean he didn't have any damage to him, and so it seemed okay. Although he was spitting up a lot, and they were trying to say that it was normal. And
yeah, I noticed, because I had 2 adult children before, and I noticed my son was having a lot of spitting up, and it was not normal. He kept choking on it. And I told the nurses and the doctors, I said, there's something that's not right with him. There's something not right. And they're like, he's fine. That's normal. It's going to go away. I said, no, my mother's instinct is telling me something is not right. And then the doctor came and was like, you can go home tomorrow morning. He's fine. There's no issues. So we came home.
Yeah, it was. We really got I'm sorry.
Breastfeed?
Yeah, she was a little. She did breastfeed for a while. Although with our oldest son, he's a year older than his brother, So a little bit more than a year. And so mom breastfed older brother for pretty much as long as she could. And then when she was pregnant, there was a period where she didn't want to dry up. And so
I did breastfeed him for quite a while. When I actually stopped, it was when my son was admitted to in the hospital. I actually tried to pump as much as I could, but it was just, the situation was
like 3 months.
It was kind of hard to breastfeed him.
I was mainly asking because you said that he was spitting up, so I wasn't sure if he was having like a reaction to the formula or what. But
No, it was just like during like the day, during sleeping, he would wake up and spit up a lot of saliva.
Yeah, it wasn't really bottle related.
I don't know what it was wrong. And then when we got out of the hospital, it started getting really bad. And then we noticed movements were not normal, and then eye switching too.
It was like immediately to the all medical staff. They just didn't want to tell us stuff. Obviously, my wife has she has an accent, and there's somewhat of a language barrier. That it's terrible that it happens, but they don't want to tell me stuff, so they want to tell my wife when I'm not around, so she can try to understand it. And then so we had that problem at the hospital too.
Mm-hmm.
But so after we got out, or after we went to the local hospital, and then to the children's hospital by helicopter. I know.
Well, tell me again what happened that night or whatever that made you call the hospital or whatever.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it just became very clear that once I saw my son's eyes roll back, I went into pretty much just panic mode. Of course, my wife, she was asleep, so she was like, well, slow down, what's going on? Like, don't jump to conclusions here. And it took about 2 minutes for her to see too, and us jump up and go to the emergency room. It was a strange situation that we couldn't.
We took him to his primary care first, and we told her what was going on with our son. We told her he's having seizures, and she said no.
Right.
He's not having any seizures. He might have GERD. We're going to have to do an ultrasound in his stomach. It might be still closed.
Yeah, that was on the first day.
It was like 2 weeks to get the ultrasound done. We're like, no, he's having seizures. He's turning blue. That's not normal.
So you were dealing with this for 2 weeks? You were dealing with
No. That's how long that the primary care doctor wanted to wait as she did an ultrasound to see what the results would be, to see if he had GERD or any other issues or anything like that. So that obviously wasn't. I'm sorry.
Okay, so let's go over the timeline again, just because I have a little bit of confusion.
Okay.
So you have him. 2 days later, you go home. Dad, you wake up in the middle of the night, and you see him doing some things that are off. Don't look right. You wake up Mom. Mom's like, okay, let's calm down. Mom sees what you're pointing out. Dad, you're right. Do we call 911 or do we take him to the nearest ER?
Yeah, we went right back to the hospital. And just to clarify, the day prior to that night was when we went and saw his primary care doctor, and she wanted to do the ultrasound. That would have been 2 weeks. So I'm, at that point, I'm watching him very closely. So you got that?
I'm confused because you said 2 weeks. 2 weeks of him being born?
Yeah, no, I that's why I knew there was going to be confusion on when she said that. So that was just a diagnosis, timeline by the doctor. If we were to listen to her and get an ultrasound and just wait for the results, those 2 weeks, it would have taken 2 weeks for her to get the ultrasound results. And that's it. That's all the 2 weeks was. So we didn't wait 2 weeks.
Okay, but where I'm confused is I thought you said you had him, let's pretend on Monday. like
Yeah.
gave birth on Monday.
Yep.
Tuesday, Wednesday, he comes home.
Yeah.
Wednesday
Well,
night.
yeah, in the morning.
Yeah, Wednesday
Yep.
night.
Yep.
Seizures.
Yes.
That night you go to the ER.
Yep.
Okay, but now where I'm confused is what I thought you
When-
just said Wednesday day, that Wednesday before that night, you took him to the primary doctor?
We did take him to the primary doctor during the day on Wednesday. So she would have came home Wednesday morning, early Wednesday morning, like 8 o'clock. And, midday, we took him to the primary care. And we're not happy with her diagnosis of possible GERD, and to do an ultrasound that would take 2 weeks. And we go back home. And I'm watching him closely.
Yeah, why'd you take him to the primary doctor that day if you just left the hospital?
Well, we actually had to do follow-up there, and it was because of the movements and the spitting up and everything that he was having. It just wasn't normal, and we wanted her to do something, to check it out. She had just left the emergency room, so.
But didn't you?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. I'm so
Okay.
sorry if this is me, because I'm like so confused.
You gotta know. Okay.
If you just left the hospital from giving birth, why did you take him right to the primary that same day?
We had an appointment to go. She was actually at the hospital too, as his doctor, and we had an appointment with her. She scheduled the appointment for that day for us to go there. For follow up to, I guess, just do her thing. She's not a very good doctor. I'll say that, but yeah. So that's what we were just following the orders that we were supposed to do. It was likely because of the spitting up that was happening in the hospital, and her hearing about it or it being on the chart. So they scheduled the follow up for that in the hospital right when immediately when she got out, and so
okay,
we went to it. Yeah.
Okay, so you go. So Wednesday night now is when you guys notice more symptoms. So you take him back to the hospital that he's born at.
Yes.
And what do they do?
Immediately, they went really fast. A team came. As soon as we had said, because he was turning blue a little bit too. Quite a bit. He was turning blue, and with the eyes rolling. As soon as we described the symptoms, a team came out immediately, and we're tending to him, put him, tubes in him, did everything right away, and right from our arms, and that's when it started. Our whole life changed right there. So he actually at the hospital, I think what they did is they gave him like Ativan or something that was the anti-seizure medication, and he had respiratory failure from the from the CNA or whatever it is that's there. She gave him too much air, and they didn't tell us about this. We had to find out later, so it got even more serious for his breathing, and they had to hook him up to things. And pretty much we just saw like a team come, and we had to sign papers for him to be able to be seen and go on a helicopter to Oakland, and mom went with youngest son, and I had to go get everything ready. I had an older brother and everything, and go to start that chapter of life. So we went to the hospital there, and he stayed for about 4 days. They were kind of sure about his diagnosis. Had some really strange issues at the hospital there. Some of the nurses were very, very just amazing, and then the next nurse would be the opposite. It was kind of strange. So, but anyways, when we ended up being able to come home around like the 21st or something, the 25th, something like, or 22nd, I believe it is. And for the next 4 months, just to sum it up, we shared a 24-hour shift of watching for seizures, multiple trips to the emergency room and back to the hospital there. He pretty much was dying in my arms 3 times. He was blue. I had to give him CPR to bring him back. And so at about 4 months, or this has gone on for 4 months now, and we are at the hospital, and we're told about a possible corrective surgery that can happen, which involves disconnecting the entire left side of his brain. And it was so much. It was so much to take in. I had a lot of questions for the doctor that weren't getting answered. But the bottom line was, with Nathan's diagnosis, what he had there, the kids that have it similar will have the same thing. Same age as Nathan, they start to get there's serious deformities and things that can happen. And reading the different parents, basically their summary of how it went, because they had surgery, they just said that they wish they did it a little bit quicker, because the results ended up being very good. And that's ultimately what we based our decision on. So he went in for surgery in May, and it was going to be an 18-hour surgery. And during surgery, the brain surgeon hit his pituitary gland and gave him 2 more lifetime conditions. He gave him diabetes, central diabetes insipidus, which is salt diabetes, and right side hemiparesis, which is partial paralysis on the whole right side of your body. And so that when that happened, we were basically, we're still not knowing what to do about the doctor. We find out that the birth doctor, which is a different in Manteca, has 5 or 6 different claims against him for negligence on giving birth. So we're like, oh my gosh! It was actually a nurse there, a really great nurse, who told us about a law firm, and was saying, you guys should definitely take action on that, because that's how this disease, if you will, comes about. It's from a problem in birth. It's not just a rare gene, a genetic disease. And we eventually did. And the problem came in where all this, with the social worker started, because they sent a records request to the hospital that did the brain surgery. Same one where the nurse referred us. And unfortunately, they took that as we were suing them when they got a records request. And we immediately went from hero parents, bedside at their child, at all times, like a lot of parents don't do, to selfish, wanting to sue the hospital, greedy parents that got treated unbelievably bad. I even had to deal with the security he was going to go try to pick my wife up and tell her to leave the chapel when she was praying inside the chapel. And I'm like, whoa, bud, I don't think you know what kind of ground you're stepping on there to try to, she's praying, she's from the Azores, and, she's raised Catholic, and she's praying right now, It's pretty much all we had at that point, and so that's just an example of how bad I got at the hospital. We eventually were, we had to stay 37 extra days. Don't want to forget that. And so 37 extra days in the ICU, and in Oakland, where we're not familiar with, we had to deal with a lot of social workers. Mm-hmm. And the social workers just did not like me. They never liked me. And I tried to be so nice too, but they, a couple of them did, but they were trying to find reasons. The only reason I can think is just liability concerns. Probably they wanted to make sure that we couldn't sue them. And so, they started saying all these weird things, like I was trying to break into cars, and like the weirdest things. And it's like, what we had our car looking into, But so eventually we did get home. We got discharged from the hospital 37 days after we were supposed to. My youngest son, gosh, my youngest son couldn't adapt to.
Okay.
I'm sorry. He couldn't adapt to the oral diuretic that he needed to take, because when they hit his pituitary gland, he developed also an ADHD hormone production deficiency. And so his body can't produce the ADH hormone, which is responsible for the body's fluid excretion process. I had to do a lot of, I almost became a doctor researching everything about his condition. So after we got discharged, we come home and it immediately started. He had to have special insurance to get the procedures done that were extensive at the hospital in Oakland. And the nurse there, or the public nurse that's now what I know now connected to CPS, just said the most unbelievable things. And what she actually did is she canceled our insurance there. And when we were going to the first appointment after my youngest son was discharged, we couldn't be seen. And they made this big deal about how we weren't gonna. They started saying that we were like homeless because we didn't have a home in Oakland. You know, I mean, we're not homeless. We just don't live here. You know, we have our home in where we're from. But yes, we don't have. I mean, we were literally just, you know, kill or be killed. We stayed bedside. You know, we weren't going nowhere until Nathan was okay. And so, like some of the nights, the social worker at the hospital, per what we were told, would get us a hotel. And they did that probably like 4 times. And but they turned that into us being homeless and needing all these interventions. We weren't going to be able to make it to the 7/12 appointment. CPS was already, a report to CPS was already made before July 12th, which was our follow-up appointment, by the same nurse who canceled his insurance so he couldn't be seen. And it ultimately, this nurse has a huge part in this, because ultimately what happened when Nathan's removal was, we had 2 prior trips to the home by CPS for lack of follow-up care, as they said. First time coming with multiple police officers, like we basically just pulled Nathan out of surgery and came home and threw him in the corner of the house, and we're like, you know, no, we don't want to be there, you know. But luckily, both visits that CPS came the first time were unfounded, and it was we got a very good one on the second one from the same county somehow. But they checked everything. I mean, they did a full investigation on us, and you know, both results came out, you know, perfectly fine, unfounded, very well nourished, kids very well taken care of, mom and dad loved the kids. But on the third time, and now after the second time, you know, we're back and we're home, and we both worked our butts off, and we bettered everything so much. We went from the little small place that we had to a giant 3-bedroom house. We had a Mercedes in the front yard, doing really well. Like inside the house, just so many toys. It's just like, you know, I mean, it's a kid's house here. But the CPS caseworker comes to the house, and you know, I'm tired of these people, you know. So I'm not rude, but I'm like, what now? You know, like, really, come on. And then she's talking about the prescription, Diarrhea was what it's called. That's for Nathan's diuretic, and that, you know, she's investigating us for neglect, for follow-up care. And I'm telling her, like, why would you say we have poor medical care? And I went and I brought her tons of prescriptions. I mean, you know, he takes 3 different prescriptions already on top of the Diarrhea. So I have bottles and bottles that I'm showing her, and it's good. I pretty much get on her. I get her to see it, you know, and she basically. Well, what I did is I called her supervisor. I shouldn't leave that out. And I called the supervisor, and this guy, I'm telling him, you know, sir, you guys should have the reports, you know, of all this that's already been looked at here. And this guy tells me, well, you better not be mean to my worker or we'll take your child. And I was just like, what the hell? Like, what? I was like, for what, you know? And so anyways, I hung up the phone and I kind of just reset it with the worker. And I told myself, you know, well, I'm just going to try to look at it and talk to her like she came because she's so worried about my son, you know, that they don't know all the details, but she has to figure them out. So I went out and I had a, you know, a little bit more friendly composure, I guess you could say. And me and her were actually okay at that point. You know, it was like, I'm sorry for the mistakes, you know, that you might have heard or anything, but we have everything we need. And what she did is she went to the car to make a call to the supervisor. And when she came back, it was a different ballgame again. You know, he must have told her, you're taking that child, you know, no matter what. And so she came back and she started to try to pick apart parts of what I had told her, very detailed and very, you know, correct, that there was an issue with it. And it ultimately came down to a prescription refill that we went to get a prescription refill, and CVS, which is our pharmacy, they didn't have the medication in. So for that one medication, we went to Walgreens to get the prescription. Well, Walgreens, because we had only been there like twice in the past for his medications, they called the Children's Hospital in Oakland. And the Children's Hospital in Oakland had already initiated the 2 prior investigations, and they told them, oh, they're trying to get a prescription refill because they've never filled the prescription. The child hasn't been taking the medication. At least that's what we're told. And they can't see him or we can't refill the medication until there's a specialist that he sees for an endocrine doctor, an endocrinologist. So she starts telling me that I have to go to the pharmacy with you to get the prescription. And I'm like, okay, you know, I mean, that's fine and everything. Well, she already knew that they weren't going to fill the prescription, so she was just like waiting on that. I don't know exactly why they weren't filling it, but we were on the phone with the doctor, and they were going to fill it for us, no problem. It's very strange how that whole deal happened. But so my wife gets home. I called my wife from work, like, babe, you got to come back here. It was just me and the boys here at the time, and so it ends up being that there's going to be a 2-day wait on the prescription, and it can't be filled until Monday or Tuesday. But it was a 3-day weekend, of course, and it was Friday at late afternoon when she came, and so the prescription would end up taking like 3 days. And so she tells us that she wants us to go get vitals at the emergency room to make sure that Nathan's healthy and fine, which we actually did with the prior visit, home visit to our house. But I asked the lady if we could just go bring him and fax her the results, and if there was a problem, then they could come back. And she agreed. And we did, and faxed her the results, and everything was fine. But this lady wanted to go to the hospital with us, and just was being really rude about it, like I was lying to her or something about the prescription.
When you say this lady, is this a social worker?
Yeah, the social worker.
Okay.
And again,
Can we pause for a sec?
Yep.
Okay, so this way I can just kind of, you know.
Yeah, I know. It's worse too, sorry.
No, please don't apologize. I just want to kind of have better understanding.
Okay.
First of all, I hate CPS, as everybody knows, but I hate when you're already going through something horrible in life.
Yeah. Nathan had an 80% mortality rate to be dead by age 1, and he had just turned 1, and we just got into a huge house. We're healing now from this process we just went through, and then bam, she comes to the door and changed it all. It's just so wrong, so wrong. We went through so much. My son, my youngest son, he went through so much that in his life. I mean, that he made it through. To come home and to get to enjoy everything that we had been able to get together for him, you know. And yeah, it's so. Anyways, we go to the hospital, and we get the vital. Okay.
I want to kind of.
Sorry.
It's okay. Don't apologize. I'm trying to think of where I want to kind of start. Let's go over so far what medical issues only had he been tested for or diagnosed with or whatever.
Okay. Well, he had been diagnosed with epilepsy from the hemimegalosophy. It's a brain condition where his left side of his brain was larger than the left side and had a lot more activity inside of it. So he.
I'm sorry. You said the left side is bigger than the right side.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that caused the epilepsy, and of course during the surgery he acquired central diabetes, which is salt diabetes. So we had to monitor that very well, and hemiparesis, which is partial right side paralysis post surgery.
Okay, so just I'm very I used to be an LVN, and then I have which is a licensed vocational nurse, and then I have medical issues. I'm not sure if you're familiar with my.
No, I didn't know.
Okay, so just for example, I have. So I have this tube feeds, hydrates, and medicates. And then this tube empties my stomach, so I can still eat and drink by mouth, but it doesn't like do anything for my body.
Oh wow! See that with me. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
And you can ask anything. And then I've had. Do you know what a port is?
Is skin on skin?
So I don't know if you can actually see.
Oh wow! I can.
I've had 5, and basically it's a device inserted under the skin, and it goes. There's a line. So I don't know if you can see like.
Yeah, I can. I can see it.
It goes through the jugular and then into the heart. So basically, I don't have any veins left. They've destroyed all of them. So because I don't have veins to access for IV or blood work or anything like that, and I get treatment often, they put in a port so that I have access to my heart, to a vein.
Wow, okay. I understand.
And I've had 5 of those. And then do you know what a PICC line is?
Yeah.
Okay, so just for anybody who doesn't know, a PICC line is like a semi-permanent IV where they put it in through your arm or your leg. You can actually do it in the groin area because I've had them there. And
Wow.
It's a direct line, so it goes here, it starts here, goes all the way through and into your heart as well, and then you're left with these they're called lumens, and it's just a little thing that hangs out so they can connect you to IV or whatever. Now, I've had 110 surgeries in
Oh my God.
almost 5 years. So
Wow.
I have a lot of knowledge on the medical stuff.
Yeah.
And
Enough knowledge. Mm.
sucks. But there's people who aren't familiar, so thank you for explaining. So when you say
Yeah.
epileptic, meaning he has seizures, surgery.
Yeah.
Seizures. And then you said he has diabetes, meaning he can or cannot have salt.
It needs to be monitored very closely. He needs to be maintained with biweekly result testing, which has not been done in CPS care, to maintain 135 to 145 salt level inside of his body. Strangely enough, the only time that he's ever had a stable salt level was in our care. You know, even in the hospital when we got discharged, it was still high. We got it down perfect. So he did have the surgery that he had was a hemispherectomy as well. He did end up having the whole left side of his brain disconnected, and is still disconnected. And so many things were not told to us, and you know, it's so hard to deal with the fact that, you know, this doctor really just tried to. I mean, he told me he was his guardian angel. He knew I didn't want to do the surgery. We actually had controlled the seizures with CBD oil, and it was working. But just like one time, we had to get a bottle of CBD oil that was not the highest quality that we had gotten, just because it's so expensive. And he started having a seizures again, like 2 seizures, and it was so hard because we went like a month without him, and we were like, okay, it's gonna be okay, you know. Like, it was so different to just go from having the seizures all the time, bringing them back to life, and then having them like just nothing, just magically go away with CBD oil, and then come back. And so when they came back, it was too hard to watch him start going through the seizures again. Yeah. And that's when we looked to get to surgery. And he messed up. You know, he messed up the surgery, and he hit the pituitary gland. It's nowhere near the left side of his brain or anywhere near any cut should be at. It's just, you know, and they wouldn't tell us anything after the surgery, mainly because I asked a lot of questions. And they all thought I was trying to figure out who did it, you know, and it ultimately came down to the head neurologist there tell me, hey, look, you know, the surgeon, who's a decorated surgeon, you know, from Harvard and all this, he made his cuts wrong. You know, I can't lie to you, Mike. You're asking questions that you know, a patient, you shouldn't be asking these questions. You know, like I can't. I mean, not like don't ask him, but just like, you know, you shouldn't be asking me if his kidneys are going to be okay because his excretion process is damaged now, and the ADH hormone is responsible for your kidney identifying that hormone in your urine and your sweat. And
so basically, you shouldn't be smart enough to know that these questions exist to be asked.
At that point, it was kind of like a compliment to me and a way for him to say, look, it wasn't us. We didn't put the cuts in. It was Dr., you know, so-and-so that did it. And, you know, he's basically like apologizing, like, I'm sorry, Mike, I know you're not going to stop until you find out exact causes of what's happened, but it is lifetime. They were telling us it's going to go away, telling my wife that, because it's forever, you know, CDI is forever. And they were acting like it was just going to go away soon. But telling my wife that when I was, we had our other son, so we both couldn't actually be in the room together at the same time ever. Mm-hmm. So okay. Yeah, but
So let me pause you again. Hold on.
Okay.
So now that I have, let's go back to the salt thing really fast. So does that mean that he intakes too much or too little? And
both ways, really. You know, I think that he has a fast metabolism like I do. So if he has super salty foods, you know, you just have to make sure that he's drinking enough fluids. It's manageable, but he doesn't taste very well either. He doesn't know if his body is sweating, peeing, diarrhea. His body doesn't understand that at all. Without the ADH hormone being able to be identified, you know, by the kidneys, really, and the brain, of course, but his body, it got that taken away. And there's a lot of things that come with that, you know, too, like early puberty and a potential kidney failure. We're very worried right now, beyond worried, because things have already happened. You know, he could, we had to watch very closely that he didn't form edema, which is when the salt level is not properly maintained and you get a layer of liquid or water above your skin and your bones, causes a lot of discomfort. And he got that in foster care, of course, and cellulitis, which is a blood infection. And it's hidden. They hid it. They're trying to hide it the best they can.
you know,
But yeah.
that's so crazy. When you had said that they transfer you to another hospital and now you're kind of living there. What is, just curious, what's the distance from the hospital that
74 miles.
From your home to the Oakland one or whatever? So from your house to the hospital in Oakland, right, where you got?
Yes.
It's 75 miles.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure if you've heard any of my other stories. Please put that in the fridge, just like that. Okay, careful. Come back when you're done. There's a mom and dad who live in back east somewhere. I don't remember the state, but they were in a car accident. Did you hear this?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay.
No, I didn't. Sorry.
It's okay. I interviewed them, and I've interviewed them a couple times because their story is so crazy. So anyways, they're from one state and they were moving. I don't believe they're moving to a different state. So they're delivering furniture to somebody, and it was very late at night, and this old man, not paying attention, I think he was in his 90s, he hit them. And it was so bad that almost everybody died. And it was mom and dad and their 2 young kids.
Man, I can already see where this is. Oh my gosh! Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So they go to the hospital, and the baby needed more extensive medical care that hospital could not provide. But because of all the damage that happened to them, they could not leave the hospital. So the baby had to be airlifted. So the mom calls her mom to be with the baby. And after like a short period of time, and I'm trying not, I just want to make sure that I'm not getting any of it wrong, but the mom, so the grandma, ends up like, I don't want to be here anymore. Sorry. And
oh my God. We saw that happen at the hospital, though, honestly, with parents. It's unbelievable. Go ahead.
So the mom of the baby gets better and like goes to the other state, because it's another state that the baby got transferred to.
No.
And same thing. Oh, well, you're homeless. Do you even have car seats for the babies? And mind you, they were in a car accident and they don't even live there. But now they're so CPS gets involved. Then furthering down as CPS is involved, I don't remember why, but they end up doing a CAT scan or something on the baby, and now all these healing broken bones or whatever are being blamed on them, as
Oh
if
my
they
God.
previously beat the baby.
Oh my God.
So
Oh my God. I can see them doing that though.
They're doing that to us too.
Yeah, everything's my fault, but
Everything is our fault.
my God, how could they? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
well, it gets even better because they end up making mom and dad separate
Well, that's what they're trying to do right now.
You're doing that with us right now.
so they could give the kids back to dad. My
Yeah.
mom has been a stay-at-home mom for years, and not only do they make them separate, poor mom had nowhere to go. Dad's not allowed to give her a dime, and mom has
Wow.
child support.
Wow. They did it like that?
And yeah, they had to sell their, because the kids got taken in this other state, they had to sell their house and stuff in the other state
Oh my
and buy
God.
a house and move there until they get their kids back.
Oh my God. Man, these people are, I mean, I actually I see that happening too. I mean, I you know, that they're so horrible. I mean, that's so, is there any type of happy ending to that at all, or it's still going on?
Say that question again. Would you ask?
Is there any type of happy ending to there at all? Did they end up?
No, they're still going. And they had one of like the best attorneys on the East Coast.
Really? Okay. Well, I hope that they're, man, I pray for their kids, my God.
It's still going on. At least the kids are out of foster care and they're back with the dad.
Oh, well, that's good. That's definitely good.
Yeah, but mom was living in her car.
Yeah, no, that's not okay.
You know, she just started going back to school to be a vet or vet tech or something like that. And so she's doing internships. She can't lose all of this. And now they're making, like I said, they're making her pay child support. Her husband can't provide for her.
That's unbelievable.
I don't understand why they want to break up families so bad. Even after taking the children, they want to break up the families. Like separate
they're just disgusting, vile people. I mean, I don't understand how. I mean, it might help them get funding, you know, whatever. But
isn't it crazy though how they're able to come in and just destroy?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that these people are given police power, you know, and then they have the immunity that they have, so they don't like with us right now. You know, I've got their falsified records. I mean, I have all these, you know, these are crimes. I mean, they don't care at all, you know, because they're not going to care until you're in a federal court with them and you're cross-examining them, suing them, you know. That they'll know that it's real if you ever get to that point even. So, you know, we just recently found them using the same paper from the doctor the last time he was seen in our care, and just regurgitating that in their medical reports that they've been giving to the court to hide what's actually happened to him, you know, in foster care, which is really bad. You know.
Just change dates on the papers, on the medical records, and just completely falsifying medical records. I mean, it's just insane. I
mean, but the labs are all the same on the bottom, so it's like, you know, the labs are the same. You didn't change those. I mean, it's very obvious, but I mean, just the time they went into to hide what they said that we could possibly do wrong to our son, you know, is just unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's just.
Okay, so we have the diagnosis is multiple, and so he's born, issues, hospital transfer, tell me when CPS gets called and by who.
It was just about to get there. So remember I told you we had to go to the hospital. Well, what ended up happening somehow, our primary care doctor was convinced that we didn't go to. Well, I know how that we didn't go to follow up. So apparently he called, but the Oakland hospital called him prior to that. And what happened is when we went to the hospital, like we were told to do again, and got vitals, which were just done, 3 hours, and I get a call from the police in town, and they say, "Where are you at, Mr. Davis?" And we have to do a welfare check on your son. And I said, we're at the hospital, like we were told to do by the social worker that just came to the house. And they come to the hospital.
Let's stop for a second. When and why did the social worker come to your house?
February.
It was on February 15th, and it was around 5 or so when she came, and maybe about 3 when she came to the house. And he was removed from mom while taking a nap at the hospital at 8:30 with nurses screaming, "What are you doing? This kid is perfectly fine, you know." And her reason was because you guys said you weren't going to go to the hospital.
We refused to take.
Hold on, sorry. So when you got transferred to the other hospital in Oakland, right?
Yeah.
How long were you there?
We were there for about 40 days.
40?
40.
40.
Yes.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
and in that time, social workers were informed?
Well, at the hospital, we had to deal with a lot of different social workers because he went from the NICU to the PQ, you know, the neonatal to the pediatric ICU. So we had different social workers, but it was the one main social worker there who's like the lead social worker that ended up, as the records show, making the calls to CPS here. You know, so.
I'm sorry. So,
Yeah.
is this still 2019? I mean,
2018. It was early 2019 when he was removed and we're at the hospital. But the whole 2000.
Confused. So okay. So you're at the hospital for 40 days. So CPS doesn't get called until the following year, correct?
Well, no, they were actually being called the whole year. The whole 2019 year, they were like I said, they were making calls when we were even at the hospital still by the CCS nurse insurance.
2018 though, or 19?
Yes, 2018. 2019 was only 15 days in when the third visit came to our house. My youngest son was removed.
Okay, so let's go back to 2018. Let's finish out this year of 18.
All right.
During that time, you're in the hospital for 40 days. Does he have any surgery or anything like that?
He had his brain surgery, and then they had another surgery after that they didn't tell us about. Pretty close to the same day. Yeah. Because they, like I said, they were trying to hide it from us, and they had to do they had to basically redo the shunt in his head, and
he had a secret surgery that you didn't know about?
Yes, he did.
Where were you?
We were in the hospital. You know, it was very strange how it happened. There was only the only time that we couldn't be right directly by his side were in the surgeries. One of them was 18 hours, which was the first one, and the next one was directly after that, when they took him by ambulance that we didn't know about to the other place where they did surgery, while we're waiting for him to be able to be okay from surgery and come back to us.
Okay,
Yeah.
hold on.
I know.
Yeah, this is ridiculous and insane. So
It's oh my gosh, it's so bad.
they take him by ambulance for the first surgery,
For the second one.
but
For the
did
second
they
one.
do that for the first surgery?
No, they didn't. The first surgery we're inpatients inside the hospital already. My youngest son had a room and everything. We were preparing for it with everybody, and then he went into that. I had to take him. We had to give him to the surgery there, which was a place where the surgery for his brain. We could not go inside of that part of the hospital where they were doing the brain surgery. So we were just sitting waiting for those 18 hours, and it ended late in the night, and all we got to see is him come out. And actually, I was asleep already, or she was, but she saw him getting pushed out, and then the doctors say everything went great, but he was really nervous, and then they rushed him out of there.
The doctor was really nervous. He told me everything went just fine, no worries. He's doing really good. He didn't even tell me that there were complications during the brain surgery. It was after.
Well, okay, but where I'm confused is during the first surgery, you're inpatient. You're in the hospital.
Correct.
Okay. When was the next surgery? The next day?
I believe it was right after the first surgery, that like the 18-hour surgery. So when they brought my son back, we already had a second surgery without his knowing.
Okay, so he was in like recovery.
So for we found out through the CCS records, we saw that the ambulance was billed and then a second surgery was billed. So right after the 18-hour surgery that he had the first time, I guess they put him in the ambulance and give him another second surgery, but we didn't know at the time.
They give him a surgery.
It all happened.
They gave him surgery in the ambulance?
No. When they took him, they gave him brain surgery for 18 hours, and then they took him in the ambulance somewhere else to do a second surgery, all after the first brain surgery. Everything at the same time, like everything happened, yeah.
Where did they take him though? To another hospital?
That's what I don't know. I'm not sure what area he went, but they took him to another hospital. I'm not sure where he went, but they took him in the ambulance and did something else in his head again. And we didn't know. We found out through some records that we saw from CCS that the hospital did that. My son had the surgery. He did have complications. But when he came out with my son, he said that everything went fine. But then there was all these complications, the diabetes insipidus and all that stuff. So my son had to stay longer. So, yeah, that's what happened.
Wow. Do you know how long the second one was for?
Nope, I have no idea. My husband and I asked a lot of questions. They were giving us the runaround. My husband was asking questions that he knows a lot, and they were like, didn't know how to answer it. And one doctor was blaming the other doctor was blaming, they were like blaming each other. Who made a mistake in our son's brain, you know? It was just terrible. And the social workers were on top of us, like, you know.
When did the social workers originally get called? You said they were calling you the whole year of 2018, right?
So my son had brain surgery May 2018. He had brain surgery May 2018. He was only 4 months old. So he was in the hospital 37 days extra due to all these complications. And then we left the hospital, we came home, and then we decided to change care because of all the problems. We put our son in the hospital, in the children's hospital, in a local area where we live. But the main hospital is in Madeira, which is really far from here, but they have a building here close to us, like 15 minutes away, so we could take my son back and forth to specialists. So my husband decided to change care from Oakland to the area. So we did all that stuff. So during that time, my son was still seeing his doctor, doing everything they were supposed to be done. That's when we got our first call was June of 2018, I believe. The social worker came. She even drug tested me, did all these questions, everything asked, and they closed the case because everything was fine. There was no issue. Again, they called again, I believe August 2018. They came again with a whole bunch of police and asking me a whole bunch of questions. They told us to take my son to the local hospital to get him tested for the salt levels. We did it. We took him to the hospital. He took his levels, salt levels. Everything was fine. My son was clear. Case closed again. The third time the social worker came, it was 2019, February, right after his birthday. That's the time they took my son. So they came 3 times. And the third time, she took my son.
Okay, one
that
moment.
night.
One
Yes.
moment.
Yes.
So, who called the social worker the first time? The hospital?
Yes. The first 2 times, it was the hospital.
And those first 2 times, were you in the hospital?
No. We were in our town, at home.
Did they come to your home?
Yes. They came and knocked on our door.
Okay, and when they knocked on your door, what did you do?
Well, I opened the door, because I wasn't sure who that was. I didn't know it was a social worker, so I opened the door. She was actually really nice, the lady. She was actually super nice. Yeah, but the case was closed because there was no issues. And the second one, when she came, she knocked on the door, but I didn't hear nobody knocking, so I was home actually. My husband wasn't home, but I was home. But I didn't hear nobody knocking. But I see a whole bunch of police outside, and then they're like knocking on the door, banging, "Man, open the door, man! We know we're in there." I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck? I opened the door, and I see like 5, 6 policemen. I was like, what is going on? Is everything okay? And they're like, oh, the social worker came and knocked on the door, and you didn't open, and she knew you were home. I'm like, I didn't hear nobody knocking. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. And they're like standing there like, oh, your son is in here? I said, yes, my sons are here. Why? And they're like, the social worker is worried about your son. You guys are neglecting him and doing it was a whole bunch of accusations. I'm like, no, there's nothing wrong. My son is just fine. So can I see your son? I said, yes. I picked up my son. He was about 7 months old at that time, or 8. And I showed them my son, and the social worker was just standing there with this face, like she was not being nice that time. And the police officers look at the social worker like, I don't think we need to be here at all.
Who said that?
The police officer told the social worker, we don't need to be here. The child looks fine. I don't see any issues. They left. So the social worker stayed. And also this one asked us.
Called me, remember?
And then she actually called him and everything. But we did take him to the emergency again, like they asked to do the test. Even though we already did all the tests, my son needed. And we took him. They checked my son. Everything was fine. Everything, no problem. That's the third time when the social worker came. He was actually called by the primary doctor that my son has and he still has. That's the third one, the third visit. That's when they took my son. Even though she said, take him to the emergency to check on him. We said yes. We went to the emergency. We did not refuse it. And she has the police calling us while we were at the hospital. And she brings the order and she tells me, with the police right there, and the police was confused, like, I don't understand why you're taking him. They are here, you know, but, and she's like, and I said, why did you do this, ma'am? And she's like, I have an order and I'm going to take your son. I said, but my son is fine. The doctor just said everything is good. He's clear. He doesn't need to be admitted or anything. He's good. And she said, you refused to bring Nathan, your son here. Why did you refuse? I said, I never refused. We're here. Aren't you here? Everybody's here at the hospital, and my son is completely fine. Can you please call the judge? I even said, can you call back the judge and let him know we didn't refuse, we're here, and my son is completely fine? She's like, oh, well, too late. That's what she said to me. I was screaming, crying.
This is number 3. This is the third time?
Yes.
Yes.
That's when he was removed. That's
Okay.
the night he was removed.
So the first time they come, and that's when the police officers come?
The first time the police officers wasn't there. It was the second time.
Okay.
So the first time, just the social worker.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And the allegations were from the hospital.
Yes.
Neglect.
For follow-up and neglect.
Follow-up. Yeah.
Okay. And they left. Number 2, police.
Yeah.
Okay. Same allegation?
Yep.
Okay. And then they leave.
Yes.
But number 2, they requested you to go to the hospital?
Yes.
All of the times they requested, the second time?
No, it's Sharon. Only one of us talking. You keep
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It was the second time that we went to the same hospital, but they did go home, or they left, you know, and allowed me to fax it to them.
Fax what?
Basically his vitals and his sodium level check.
Mm-hmm.
The proof.
Yeah, it was perfect.
So between time 1 and 2, were you told to do anything or no?
No, we weren't. Basically what was said at the hospital, you know, it was unfounded, that we were like homeless and that we didn't have a way around, and all these weird things that this basically is a nurse.
About the hospital when Nathan was removed. We're not talking about the result online. I keep getting her confused with the hospital. When Nathan was removed.
Can you ask your question again?
She's talking about his removed.
No. At
Okay, now you got me there next time.
Number 1, when they first came.
Yeah.
Between first and the second time, were you requested to do anything?
Don't interrupt me, babe. No, we were not. Like I said, they didn't provide any services or anything. It says on the notes that they offered some services, basically, you know, but not any services like, you know, reunification services or possible being up, you know, taking Nathan or my youngest son. It said like something about transportation, about like a bus passes or something like that, like if we needed them, and that was it. But we weren't required to do anything. There wasn't anything in that sense. It was just unfounded.
So in a way, they were offering you things for you to accept to see if you were homeless.
They were trying to do that to her. They waited till I left the house, and then they went there the first 2 times to try to do that, to try to manipulate. It was just ridiculous. but it's been a long process, but I mean, I've been the whole time like, yeah, sorry.
So from visit number 2 to 3, the request was to take him to the hospital for a checkup.
Yeah, just that night, and so within the next 2 days, to fax her the results of his vitals and everything, and that was it.
Okay, so let's say they came on a Monday for number 2. What day did they come on for visit number 3?
Friday, late afternoon.
Okay,
on 3-day weekend.
Okay, and on that Friday, where did they show up to?
The house. It was me and my boys alone.
Okay, I thought, Sophia, you said that you guys went to the hospital.
The second visit, yes. The second visit, we went to the ER to get his salt levels checked, and everything was fine.
She knows that. But basically, I called her at work. So I was with the social worker at home alone with the boys from basically 3 o'clock to 5:30, and she waited. She waited for my wife to get home so she had the car at that time. We only had one car then.
Perfect.
Yes, babe, the third visit. Jeez, you're kind of mixing me up.
I'm not. I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. Remember, I need to understand.
So yeah. Is that clear on that one?
Okay, so third visit, see, I'm a little bit confused because I thought the second visit, the police came, and then just left. But it was the second visit they made you go to the hospital?
Both, the second and the third. We went to the hospital, same hospital.
Oh, okay.
So that's probably what's confusing, yeah. We went again on the third visit. After giving him,
They followed you there?
Not the second time. They let us do it on our own, and fax it to them, and we're pretty cool about it. Just get the vitals done and fax them to me, and then case closed.
Cool. Okay. So then a few days later, and you did that, right? You did that on.
Yes, we did.
So a few days.
Yes, we went right away.
They have you.
Yeah.
They show up again at your house, and it was just you. They wait for Sophia to get there, and then what happens? Walk me through it again. I apologize.
Okay. First off, this was January, and the second and the third visit. The second visit was August of 2019 or 2018. I'm sorry, and the third visit was January of 2019. So there's a time gap in there.
Oh, huge time gap.
Huge time gap. Yeah. February, not January. I'm sorry.
I thought that they were relatively close.
The first two were a month apart, but the second and the third were months apart. And, here we are taking care of him fine. He's in great health, perfect health, and it comes the third time.
Now, between all of these visits, what's happening with him? Is there hospital visits?
No, he's healing. He's doing perfect. I'm talking perfect health. He's healing and playing with brother, and I've got him excellent salt levels. We did every week, bi-weekly. He couldn't have been in better health. Literally, you could not have been. He's a very fragile child that he needs to be monitored at all times, to not develop certain issues that can happen. We had every test you can imagine is done and just excellent.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah,
No, you're fine. So the third time, why did they come? Is it the hospital calls again?
Well, they said it was this is where it kind of gets a little bit tricky too. I can imagine listening to it, but it's when we went to the pharmacy, and this is what triggered it. And who called them was the same nurse, the CCS nurse, because they were saying that we didn't go to our doctor's appointments, that the doctor, our new primary care doctor, he scheduled us, or he referred us to a neurologist and an endocrinologist, however you say it. And because the CCS nurse here, I know this is tricky, but the CCS nurse had insurance in all the stays when we were at the children's hospital, because they paid for that. But because Medi-Cal itself at the time is what we had, they didn't need that at Valley Children's, where we switched them to. I'm sorry, the other hospital, the other children's hospital. She didn't get any bills and called CPS on us again, saying that we didn't go to follow-up, even though we had already got initially consulted, an EEG, came back and talked to him about the EEG with 2 doctors, and had other appointments scheduled on the 20th, and they took him on the 15th. So this doctor called CPS on us because apparently he talked to UCSF and the public health nurse from CCS, who said that we didn't go to the appointments. He didn't bother to check. I don't know why, because we had absolutely gone to him, and they were just not paid for by the CCS program, and so they based everything on that, on the CCS program nurse, to that we just didn't go to follow up. She actually mixed Nathan up with a different child, and it's right there on their discovery papers they gave us. Yeah, I mean, I'm talking like the public health nurse at CCS, she's the person that initiated all this bad information to medical providers, to started the initial CPS calls when we were still in the hospital recovering. This lady is just, oh my gosh. I mean, it's not even mistakes either. She just went out of her way.
Wrong patient.
to do this, but she even has on, because we got a log of all of her calls and the bills for CCS. I had to put it together myself, actually. I mean, I had to figure this out, but I was able to figure out how responsible she was. It actually comes down to her as well, because we thought that the children's hospital maliciously denied his prescription, because it did get denied, and we're like, what do you mean denied? Why would it get denied? We'll pay cash for it. The reason that it got denied, though, is because of the removal of the insurance by this nurse. So when she took away his CCS insurance, that's what the Walgreens had on file too, and they were not able to bill her. It was denied because of that reason. So because she took away for no reason, and this person is the person that's saying that we're not going to show up possibly to the appointments, because she took away his insurance, canceled it, he was not able to get the prescription refilled, and that is the sole reason that they came, and they used all the way to disposition to have means to be able to take him. They say that he needed to see a specialist from endo to get it refilled, because this same nurse said that was the reason. But unfortunately, that's not the case at all. And any doctor can write a prescription for the diuretic, and he never had a prescription written by anybody but a general pediatrician. So, it's so ridiculous that what they've said was that we didn't do follow-up and we didn't have enough medication for the 3-day weekend. Because one of the bottles of Diarrhea that I was showing the lady had like an eighth of the bottle left. That alone, though, was like 3 weeks with Diarrhea. It's not very much. And that's what their basis was this is an imminent medical danger. The child's going to die if we don't get medication for the child, and they don't have enough to make it till Tuesday. which was, I had reserve bottles that I presented in court when we were finally got, this trial. And they were valid medications of Diarrhea that I still had because we spent so long in the ICU that were not expired, and it didn't matter at all, I'm like, we have everything that we can show you. We were just at the neurologist 4 days before you guys came, and we have another appointment in 5 days. We've gone, but the public health nurse kept telling people we were lying and that we hadn't gone to the neurologist. They were calling the main big hospital in Madera and asking for information about my son, who was not a patient at that hospital, and had to literally be told by their doctors, he is not here, and this is a patient that you're speaking of that has high blood pressure, and you're asking me about diabetic medication,
So let's go back to the day that he was taken. So they come to your house, they ask you to take him to the hospital, and they follow him, correct?
They didn't follow me. Well, we thought they were following us. She was supposed to be. She went and got in her car, and we drove to the hospital. And, it's a busy night there, too, so we had to wait 3 hours there. We were there for 3 hours. And I'm just, waiting for her to walk in the door.
Friday night, right?
What's that? Yeah, Friday night.
Just out of curiosity, when was the last time from that day that he had seen a doctor?
He had seen a doctor. Well, we did follow up with the neurologist on 4 days before that, on the 11th.
Okay.
And we had an EEG, a brain scan done on January 19th.
So it wasn't like you hadn't seen any doctors or anything?
No, not at all. Not at all. That's why it's so ridiculous, is that it's right there, and here you have our primary care doctor, I guess, listening to this nurse and saying that we didn't actually go to the appointments when they sent him letters saying, thank you for referring this patient, and it's all so formal, right? And, it's like, just look at this piece of paper and just look at this prescription, That shows that we did do follow-up, obviously, and we did have valid medication, a lot of it, and he wasn't in any danger, So.
Okay, so you guys go to the emergency room, which I hate when they do that because now you're exposing him to other things.
Yeah.
And
that's what I said to him, too.
Did you have Big Brother with you? Is it all four of you that are?
Yes.
Going?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, we always have Big Brother. We don't have anybody else. It's just us against the world, so.
I understand. I'm a single mom and I have both kids. Okay, so you go to the emergency room. Did you say that they went with you?
I'm sorry?
Did you say they went with you?
So me and my husband went to the emergency room like she asked us. She left. And we don't know where did she go. We don't know. So we're at the emergency room for 3 hours already, and my husband gets a call from the police department. And the police department is like, where are you guys? We went to your guys' house, and you guys are not home. My husband's like, we are at the hospital with my son. And he's like, oh, okay. And we're like, yeah, we're here because she asked us to salt levels checked, so we're here. We've been here for 3 hours. So we're just waiting for him to be clear. And then we were, yes.
Your son.
My son, yes.
Not his
name. My son was, I'm sorry.
Okay.
My English, sometimes I mix the words. We were there, and then the police comes and with a social worker, and they were talking to the doctors and the nurses was like, the child is doing really good. He's doing everything is really good. His salt levels are perfect. He's ready to be clear to back home. He's just fine. There's no issues. And the social worker said, well, we do have a letter from the judge. I don't know what's the name of the letter. Dad, what's that called?
What?
The letter that she got from the judge to remove our son?
A warrant? A warrant?
No,
She did a PCO.
it wasn't a warrant.
No warrant, just a PCO.
What does a PCO stand for?
PCO, it's,
Let me look it
he's
up.
coming. What's PCO? Protective Custody Order. So
Hi.
she brought one and she showed it to me and I said, what is this? And she said, that's an order for me to remove your son because you guys refused to bring him to the ER. I'm like, we are here. You are here. I mean, I was just like confused. Why are you removing my son? It's like, you guys refused to bring him to the ER. And
Now,
we're like, confused.
was this on the phone or was she there in person with you?
In person. When the social worker got there with police officers, 2 police officers, I believe, she talked to the doctors and everything. She came in the room when I was in the room with my other son.
Sorry,
and she gave me the order.
there's a lot of background noise. It's hard to hear you.
Right. So yeah, we were at the emergency room when the police called. We were there. My son already done his test. He was perfect health. So the police and the social worker showed up there showed up at the hospital with a PCO, protective order, and told yes.
Protective custody order. That's so crazy. Normally those aren't to like keep away, like, but
I know, yeah. I know it's not normal. That's why I was so confused. And I said, I thought it would be a warrant or something, but no, it was a PCO to remove the child because she went and told the judge, I wrote on the paper, she told the judge that he's in imminent danger and then we refused to bring him to the ER. And then the doctor and the nurse was like, the child is fine. He's not in danger. If he was in danger, we would have submitted him in another hospital. Children's Hospital, he's fine. He's ready to go home. They medically clear my son. They medically clear, no danger at all. We have all these records here at home and showing my son in perfect health and saying that we refused to bring him to the ER. And she still took him that night. And he was asleep.
Yeah.
Oh, he was on my arm, on my arm that night. It was terrible.
I'm sorry.
okay. So
Yeah.
you're at the hospital, social worker, they call, they show up, they have this order, your son gets cleared, and then they take him?
Yes. And I even asked the police officer, please not let her take him because he's completely clear, medically clear. And the officer said, even looked at me like, I don't understand why they're taking him still. He's fine, but I have to follow the judge order. That's what they said. They took him to a place for 3 days until they found a foster home for him. Yep, no, there's no warrant. There was a PCO. But she completely lied to the judge. I told her, please call him back saying we're here. We didn't refuse to come to the doctor. He's clear. My son is fine. She's like, and then I said, when I said, we never refused, please call him. She's like, well, too late. She looked at my face. She looked at my face and said, too late. And the police officers couldn't do anything. They actually told her, why are you taking the child? You shouldn't be taking him. He's fine. The doctor just said so. And nothing. She still took him. Yeah, she lied to the judge. You know, it was very upsetting.
Yeah, it's upsetting, and I wasn't even there.
I'm sorry?
I said I'm upset, and I wasn't even there.
He was sleeping in my arms. My other son was next to me, and they just took him. They actually, I told her, please call the judge back. We're here. We didn't refuse. I don't know why we're doing this to us. She's like, just with a plain stare in my eyes. Too late. Yep, just like that. My son's been gone for almost 2 years. And now he's been sick the whole time. And we have him in perfect health. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Please don't apologize.
When I talk about it, it's just like it happened last night again, you know? When I had him in my arms. And they didn't take my other child. They didn't take my other child.
That's what I want to talk about. Okay, so did the doctor say anything? Like,
the doctors were upset. The nurse was like yelling at the social worker, why are you taking this child? He's well nourished. He looks like he's been taking all his medicines on timely manner. He looks perfect. Even though with his conditions he's perfect, his salt levels are perfect. Why are you doing this? She said, they refused to bring him to the ER. And they put him in really big danger. That has to do with PCO, emergency PCO. Everyone was like confused. Even the police officer was confused. Like, why? You know? It's, you know. Ugh. Craziness. Whew. It's hard. So yeah, they took him that night, and I believe they put him in Graham Hall or whatever. I don't know, like by the juvenile police place or something for 3 days until they found a foster home with this lady. He was with this lady for quite a while, and he was in ER many times. It was really sad.
okay, so from the day that they took him on a Friday, right? It was a 3-day weekend.
Mhm.
Did they take your car seat, or did you get to walk him to the car? Did they keep him in the hospital?
They took him right out of the emergency room. The doctor standing there, the police officer standing there. My husband was holding him. She's like, give me your kid. And then my husband's like, I'm not giving you my kid to the social worker. I'm gonna give this kid to the police officer, because the police officers were really nice. And the police officer was just like,
Sorry.
He felt so bad, but he said, I have to take him. I'm sorry. And I was like screaming on the floor, crying. And my husband had to him my son to the police officer right in the emergency room after it was clear, medically clear, and no issues. So he had to hand him, and they took him. I believe they put him in the social worker car or something, because we did not bring him with us that night.
Yeah, they did. The officer was, he was obviously like against it. I know he didn't really have anything he could do, but he said he kind of interrupted when I was talking to the social worker, and I was kind of, like basically like, oh, you're not going to get away with it though, I mean, they're going to do this, but they're the wrong parents. We'll fight till the end, and the officer, she's on the report. She said that I went to attack her, like I took a step at her, is what the report says. Yeah, I was like, so with my son in my hand, the social workers, like her report to get the PCO, which is on our initial petition.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you say that? Wouldn't you use that as a reason that you would try to take a child, rather than this ridiculous stuff they were saying if I tried to come at you or something, like you would. I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing. That's because, I don't know, I'd imagine it's because she realized that we had all the results done and needed a good reason to say why she was at the hospital and didn't know, but
Right.
yeah. It was very terrible.
Yeah. Okay.
And
So they take him away. How many days after that do you have court?
6 days went by.
I believe it's supposed to be 72.
Yeah, it is. And with a child under 3 that's taken, that goes into custody, it's supposed to be the next business day. But that's one of many rules of procedure they have not followed at all. So, and I told you, Nathan's also a Native American. My grandfather is quite a bit. They even on the ICWA form, I signed the ICWA form on the initial hearing, and they didn't do anything until March. They still didn't do anything. They didn't do anything at all the whole entire time. But so Nathan being Native American, they've already made me the presumed father, but they put we got an ICWA form through the mail, a certified one, and it has all my grandfather's tribes on it. And so we have a hearing that was supposed to be on October 10th of 2019. And when we got to the hearing, our public defenders that we had, not even a public defender, she might have had a paid attorney at the time too. No, it wasn't. But they said, and they're not going to do the hearing today. And they did a little something earlier, and I'll tell you about it later. And we're like, what? This is our Indian ancestry hearing. This is where we're going to get transferred out of this court. And they just somehow didn't have it. And when my appellant lawyer, who now we have, did it, he requested the records. There's no hearing on October 10th, so we don't even know what happened. They just didn't have a hearing, on that. And then the social worker said she just came up to the decision that not an Indian child. And we didn't know till just the other day that the reason that she used is because she said we weren't cooperative to provide a birth certificate. And so she used that to mislead the court, saying by federal law, okay, what did you say? Repeat it?
Yeah, go ahead and repeat it without saying.
Gosh, it made me lose my train of thought when
Right.
I'm so sorry.
So your son has Indian in him.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know how I lost my train of thought on that one. So yeah, he does have Indian in him, but what she did is, again, she said that we didn't provide the ICWA form or the signature on the form, and that, or his birth certificate. I'm sorry, and that was the reason that he's not an Indian child. And that's what she apparently gave something to the court. Never seen it. That they were okay with, and instead of having the ICWA hearing on November 12th, she filed what was supposed to be a receipt from the Sacramento registry or whatever, the Indian registry, that said that they don't have any knowledge of that tribe. But she didn't put on there how they needed a birth certificate, but it is a couple boxes down when it says parents did not provide a birth certificate. So that's what she did. We had the birth certificate the entire time. I don't know how the court let that slide, because they can't, but they've done everything wrong to us. Everything. We haven't got notice of 3 hearings, probably.
So during the first court hearing, what was established? What was said? And did you say that you had a court-appointed attorney?
Yes, I did. we went into the very first hearing. It just went very quickly, and they didn't let us present any evidence. And I was hearing the impression I was going to get to cross-examine any witnesses. I even had the rule, I knew what the rule was. I'm like, Section 318, it's Rule 5.482. And it says that we get to either cross-examine witnesses or you guys can't use a petition in any decision that's made. And they didn't care. And so they said that there was grounds to keep me. So what happened with that is basically just she sent a letter to the court saying she couldn't find the birth certificate, and that was like it for ICWA. They said that was okay, and Nathan was an Indian. So like I was saying, we tried to provide the birth certificate to her, but she would not take it, and nobody would take it. Even by copies by email, just to my attorney, it just never got to them. They never submitted any evidence. It's such a strange thing because, you're trying to describe it to people, and they just can't imagine everybody kind of going against you. But that is exactly what's happened here. And the reason is because people like the nurse, the public health nurse, had whatever bad feelings they had against me. They really worked to convince the next people, and it's really turned into like the perfect storm here. And my son is the victim, and none of it's true. Here they have a false criminal record that they posted on me where I've just been in and out of jail. Not true. Mental health pleadings from cases that never happened. I mean, they just have me to them, I am the lunatic, crazy guy that you don't let around your kids because he might poke them in the eye, and they're serious about it. They really I'm just the craziest person in the world to them. Like every single person involved in the court, counsels on both sides are threatened. They say they're threatened by me at some point through this 2-year process. I've never said anything to them that would in any way say that you would be threatened. But of course, even the first foster mom, when she couldn't do it anymore, she wasn't taken at all, and so she filed a 14-day thing to have him moved, and it was because she's threatened by Dad. Of course, we're very cool. Every time I see her kids play with me, and we were on good terms. And but nope.
Saying this?
The foster mom that had.
She was friends with a social worker.
Yeah, she's a little go-to. She's a little go-to girl,
Conflict of interest.
Yeah, definitely. Her husband has a government job or works for the city, as she said. Mm-hmm. But she also said it was for the water, and then it was for a construction thing at one point to me, which I caught. But yeah. So it's been pretty interesting in terms of that. But I mean, in court, I don't know what you told her already about the court process.
Oh no, I was still on the hospital thing, and I was telling her that I was in a Graham home for 3 days.
She just said, okay, listen.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't know. My son was in 3 days in this place, juvenile place, and they placed him with a foster mom, this lady. He was there for how long? Almost a year.
For a year.
For a year. And then she got sick many times in her care, and she kept canceling so many visits because somebody in her family was always dying, which is not true.
Yeah, she had.
My son was sick a lot, so they kept taking him to the hospital.
14 people died in her family while she had.
So yeah, the visits were canceled so many times she couldn't bring our son because somebody died. Everybody in her family was dying, and we knew our son was sick. And then one time, it was like, this is getting too bad. And then there was one time she took him to the hospital again, and my son was like all swollen, red, hot. He was so sick, and we were so upset because they were trying to hide that from us. And then she couldn't handle it anymore. She put a request in for them to remove my son, and they decided to tell the court that she should say she removed our son because she was so afraid of my husband. But
real quick, it's probably important to add. I don't mean to interrupt. Sorry. That when she had our son in her care, she had taken him to the emergency room without us knowing, and we didn't. They gave me a partial part of the diet. Yeah, or no, it was actually the social worker at the time. She emailed me the foster mom took him to the hospital, yes. And they wanted him to stay in the hospital for inpatient care because he was in bad shape. And she didn't want to do that. She said no to it, and brought him back. And yeah, and he ended up. So then they switched homes, and he was supposed to be in a regional center medical facility, and we found out that he wasn't, and he was in another home, this one a group home, where this lady she has a big house out there, and has a lot of disabled kids there, and she has, I guess, what you would call one of the foster care business entities where she buys children, and that's where he's at still currently right now. We even just found off topic. We just found him with a safety pin, a giant safety pin that he just found, and he was just picking up, putting near his eyes and his mouth. And luckily, we were able to screenshot it, which they're scrambling around for right now. He has a safety pin in his mouth, right by his eyeball. And for 5 minutes, we're screaming because we have to see him on the phone right now. We haven't even been able to see him in months right now. It's been 3-4 months. We have not seen our son.
February.
And so yeah, he had a safety pin, and I did contact everyone I could try to, but maybe the ombudsman called, but licensing went by her house, and
that's okay.
So
okay, so
I did.
Let's go back. Sorry. You said that you were on the phone with him, like with the safety pin. How did this happen?
It was a visit, and there was video call visit. It was a video call visit, which it's not a visit, but that's the only way we could see our son. So he was in his crib. And I was talking to him and all that stuff, and out of a sudden I see something in his crib, and he starts grabbing it and putting it in his mouth and playing around his face. I'm like, what? What the heck is that? And I zoomed in, and I see a safety pin in his hand. I start taking screenshots of it, and I called my husband, and I said, hey, our son has a safety pin in his mouth. We start like, hey.
I don't know if you could see the picture or not, but look at it.
He has
Yeah, he's just finding it right there. He's like grabbing it with his fingers.
It took them minutes.
If you see that one,
get it.
That's right. Look at he's just staring at it like, oh, look at this pointy safety pin right here.
Mm-hmm. But you can see better.
There he's got it. Oh, hey.
Somebody's calling.
There was a call. See, and there he's got it.
That's a big one. Can you show me
It's
with like your...
One.
Can you show me in reference to with your fingers how large it is?
This big. Probably.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It's like almost halfway of the bottle.
Yeah,
it's bigger than his hand. You zoomed in on it. See how big it is?
Yeah.
This was in his mouth. In his mouth.
Nobody did anything until they came to their door, and that's where we're at right now, actually, in the case, because now they're trying to take our rights away.
Mm-hmm.
This stuff's happening. Yeah, they're June was fine. Everything was great. The sun's shining, and parents are doing good in counseling or whatever, doing their stuff. And then October comes now, and all of a sudden, we're not cooperating. We've made no progress in termination of parental rights is what they want to do.
Yep.
Which is ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous. But also not adoptable. So they got my mom they were manipulating my mom is not a good mom, to adopt him like that was the only choice, which was the reason that they could keep going. But luckily we told her to butt out and she listened, and now they don't know what to do because they don't have adoption anymore as an option. And so yeah, we're at a really weird stage where I'm like watching around because our case is really bad. They've come to the house. They've came to our house and searched our house, and I've been pulled over in my driveway. I didn't even know, and then the cops get out like I was speeding, and I had my other son in the car, which clearly they were told by CPS something because they were surprised I had my son in the car, but they were asking me why I was flying around driving so fast. And I drove like 2 blocks from here to Jack in the Box, and I saw the cop. I was going the speed limit and everything. And he ends up putting me in the back of the car, coming in the house, searching the house, accusing my wife of things.
Why were you even pulled over?
We're being followed. We're being harassed by these people. That's why we have cameras.
It's getting pretty bad. Like they do not want me to talk inside of there, and they want it to be just on Sofia. I don't know if she told you, but the one day that we got to testify, they pulled me right out of court because I was saying things that needed to be said in the right way. But they took her translator in court, and the judge ruled that she didn't need a translator on the day of the testimony only, of course. So her translator was taken away.
Why?
Because he said that he determined this judge in the state court, not a federal judge, that she speaks English just fine. And she's trying to explain to him, I never said I didn't speak English. I'm saying I don't understand complicated court terms very quickly in terms of custody of my child,
She can speak it fine, but maybe she has a harder time understanding it.
Exactly, but that's not even the way that they hear it, it's not even, that's not a relevant option at all. Her lawyers, paid lawyer and the counsel, are saying the same thing the judge is saying. They're saying, she speaks fine English to me.
They're all lying. Even my last court hearing, this attorney I have, which is a court-appointed attorney, she told the judge that I threatened her. I was just like shocked.
Oh, the public defender right now that she has is, she's trying so hard to get off the case.
And the judge was siding with her.
She is unbelievable. She's like a 5-year-old.
Yeah, I did tell him.
Bad.
I told him I needed to bring this up to the court that my son is not safe. He's been sick. Social worker's been falsifying the papers and all this stuff. And my attorney doesn't want to bring that up. So my attorney is just like telling the judge that she wanted me to let her go to do a margin hearing or something, and asking the judge, she couldn't communicate with me, and I was been communicating with her, and she said she wasn't ready again. She's been my attorney for quite a while, but she's not ready all the time, and they keep continuing it.
Don't forget me. She said that she was threatened by me, and that she put me on the phone with her, and I was threatening her. I never talked to her ever, And
the judge was just like believing everything she was saying. I was stunned. I couldn't believe it.
I think in that aspect, they're trying to scare her right now. Well, I know they're trying to scare her because adoption's not on the table now, and they've passed the statutory limit to be able to have a child under 3. They haven't followed anything, and so I think that's what they're trying to do. They told her that if the judge, he might on the next hearing let our son come home, but she's going to have to put a restraining order on me so I can't come around the kid. Like, a restraining order takes a crime to happen. They're saying they want her to commit a crime and put a restraining order on me.
Who's saying this? And
Her lawyer.
My lawyer is telling me.
Wants you to get a restraining order against your husband?
If they decide to give my son to back home, I need to get a restraining order on my crazy husband. That's what she said. I was like, I'm not doing something illegal. My husband did not do anything wrong. Why would I get a restraining order on him?
This sounds
And now I'm in the,
so
sorry.
much like the other case that I am. When
Yep,
we're done with this, I would like us to contact her.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, she needs to.
So much been happening. If you heard the things these people said in court, the judge just yelled at us and say, you cannot give your son medicine. You cannot get a prescription from just any doctor. It has to be from a specialist. No, my son's been getting his medicines prescribed by a pediatrician. It's just all these things like ignorance. Literally.
Sorry. There's a very complicated, set of circumstances with my son, and I understand that there's a lot to it. But the things that they said are such an insult on what he's done in his life to get to where he's at, all the procedures he's been through, and for them to, like, nobody in that room has been through what my wife and I have been through. In terms of parenting, we've gone through almost everything you can go through being a parent, and it's like, you guys don't even need to be, I feel like telling them, just go sit over there, the parents are talking over here. You guys don't get to say what kind of parent I am. Go try to do what we did, There's another issue.
They're using the pandemic against us. Yep.
Like what?
Yeah.
Like with the services, the reunification services, because everything got closed and delayed, they completely use that against us. They said we have plenty of time to do all the services during the pandemic. We're like, we work through the whole pandemic, and they didn't. Places everywhere was closed. We have to follow the stay-at-home order when we're not working. Everything else is closed. How are we supposed to get services done? And we're still doing it. And they're still asking to do TPR on us, which is take our rights away.
Yeah, the reunification services. And see, they made me way after 18 months even, go and talk to psychologists. And oops, sorry. So I talked to these people, and they say to me, that there's nothing that I see. I just don't understand how this is even happening. I don't see anything, even remotely close to what would be any psychological issues. And I'm like, well, thank you. That's good. I had two tests like that I had to turn into them. There's like tests where it's we did them over the call, but they're just multiple choice tests. Like, have you thought about trying to hurt anyone today? Are you going to kill your wife tomorrow? Just questions like that. And I had to mail those two in.
This is a like a psych evaluation, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so reading up on them, I was very cautious talking to them, and they wanted me to sign ROIs to be able to talk to my mom and my brother and all my doctors that I've ever had, and I was, I told them that's you can talk to them, but I'm not going to give you guys consent for confidential information. You're supposed to be doing a psych evaluation on me, and so maybe that, I don't know, made them mad, but we had a good relationship, the girl that did it. But the report comes back. It does say the stuff that we talked about, but it's incomplete because they didn't get the test results. But what I left out, sorry, there's at one of the hearings, the judge ordered me to give the two tests to the social worker so he could turn them in. Unfortunately, at work, somehow, even working there, my package that I sent one day mail did not get sent. And so I had to go track it down, find it, and then, so I did. I gave it to the social worker, and sure enough, the test comes back. There's no signs of anything on, but because Mr. Davis can't follow orders and turn in medical procedure forms like the tests, that he's incapable of being a father, and it's incomplete, but there's also a risk that he may not be able to pay for his home in the future, and maintaining stability is an issue. We recommend calling social services to help you with housing. That's my reunification service.
This is so amazing. I think they're onto something. If they could just read all of our futures, then we would know the problems that we're gonna, have in the future, and then we'll be able to be prepared.
It's like, why would I? I'm on a union, number one, and at UPS, and I'm a very good worker, and we just bought our house. We're buying this house that we have now, and that's what's on the report. Maintain housing through them, through them. The same people that wouldn't even get us hotels room when we needed them when we were in a hard time. It's unbelievable. Yeah, so we did. We went and we got our own counseling done by a CPS, former CPS social worker, that became a family therapist and does court-ordered counseling already. And she's been great. She said everything that she could say about us, so that's really good. Good to have her.
Yeah, but they're still trying to say we're not going to accept those services. I was like, everything was closed. We went and got someone else to do it. Exactly what you guys needed. We got the services done. We're still actually doing more, and we're still doing more services from the place CPS referred us to, and they're still giving us a hard time.
What services did they order you guys to do?
Myself, only counseling.
And mine too. That was mine. After so long though, they wanted to do it. They had a hearing in the court to have me do a psychological evaluation to tailor fit my reunification services. So they're trying to add things on at that point, to do, because they had nothing. And so I did it. I followed all the things they wanted to do, but now they have the most ridiculous things that the psychologist report, number one, is incomplete because they didn't even get the test from the social worker. He did not send them on purpose, not listening to a court order here. And the test first says it's incomplete and that I don't fit any of the diagnostic, scores that make any mental illness. But it says, because Michael couldn't even turn in the test, or me, sorry, it is possible that he may have the following disorders, wanting to kill everybody, wanting to, poke babies in the eye, and all these other, there's 3 of them. Oh, traumatic issues. I'm traumatized because I've
you referred to yourself in third person, so I'm just kidding.
Does that make me crazy? Wait, what happened?
I'm giving you a hard time. I said, no, I'm worried because you recently referred to yourself in the third person.
Oh, I just didn't want to say my name. But I didn't want to say my name. I'm sorry.
I'm joking.
I probably am a little bit crazy.
You know what? Here's the thing. I had to do a psych eval too. And I came back with PTSD and anxiety and stuff like that. And it's what do you expect?
Yeah, really. Talking to them, that's the same thing I was saying. I was very cautious not to say the wrong things. But, I'm that question's a little bit, I'd have to not admit that this has hurt me very badly. But I don't want to say I have trauma that's going to be used in a way that is making me a bad parent. So how do I properly answer that question for you guys? And they were like, so I was careful through the whole thing, and they couldn't say anything else. But I mean, it's still set up wrong. You know, like there's horrible things said on me after that I don't let my wife think. She doesn't make any decisions at all. That I completely am overbearing, and I.
He's this lunatic controlling me.
I'm talking. Be quiet. No, I'm just kidding.
That's what they say. And they even said that, for my counseling, they said, I cannot get over that being away from my son. Like, I cannot get over they took my son away from me. I was like, really? So I'm supposed to get over.
Gosh,
I'm supposed to be okay with that. I'm like, literally, like.
I'm sure you know that, but their standard of progress in terms of reunification services is how well you accept the situation and come to terms with what you did and how to start to fix it. Number one is admitting you did it. Like, oh, that must be great in court when you admit something you didn't do for you guys, you know, but no thanks. I mean, there's no accountability whatsoever at all in their program. Like, you guys are just perfect. No one makes mistakes here, you know. There's no like, oh, if we accidentally messed up.
Let's go over his health now. How is he doing now out of your care?
Oh, man. He's doing very bad. Very bad. He looks like a skeleton right now. He has gotten edema and cellulitis with no sign of cure. There's not been one medical record that's been since actual for him. They've doctored every single one of the medical records. He developed edema, which as I spoke on earlier, is what to watch out for. He could develop hydrocephalus right now, and it could kill him. He could get brain damage and die because of the edema already that his body has. And he has a blood infection, cellulitis. So it's not been fixed. We did get to take him to the emergency room. I don't know if you told her. After the foster mom, you remember I told you she didn't want to take him to inpatient care because she didn't want to go wait in the hospital and all that stuff. Well, I yelled and screamed at the social worker, and finally he went and he did it. Took him to the emergency room in Merced, and we actually got to go and be with him for the weekend. And he was so constipated that he was shaking. His little body was shaking so bad. It makes me so mad. But just that weekend that we were there, we got him all the way back up to good health, perfect. I mean, because we know how to take care of him, and you know, it takes a lot of patience with him.
One thing one of the reasons too, his, I'm sorry, you can do that all the time. So, I was saying, what I was going to say. So there was a reason he went to the ER, was admitted in Madera. His potassium was very low. Is it potassium?
Yeah. Yeah,
very, very low. It was dangerously low. So it was all these conditions, constipation, dangerously low potassium. They were not getting any food or fluids for a whole week. So we ended up in Madera. And we were there, both of us, and we took care of him. And they went to the court and told the judge that our son was there just over a little constipation. That's what they told the judge.
And it was my fault.
And it was his fault.
Everything's my fault. Everything. Even her lawyer, this last one, that threatened her or wasn't ready, it was my fault. Because Dad got on the phone or something with her, and it's just crazy. It's like a witch hunt for me. There's nothing even on there anymore that says anything about neglect, actually. It's just about Dad. Pretty crazy.
Now, how often do you get to see him? What are the visitation orders?
Still the same from the beginning.
But, yeah.
2 hours, but only by video now.
2 hours a week. That's it. 2 hours a week. We had supervised visits in the beginning. 2 hours a week. That's it.
And what's happened? Like, what's going on at court? Like, what's next?
They continue it continue. And I mean, it took 10 months to do the jurisdictional hearing. And the dispositional hearing They didn't find any new evidence. There wasn't time. It was 2 weeks after. They just used the same allegations from the petition on the disposition and said, if you don't sign these papers, we're going to take away your rights. And we're like, well, you know, we don't want that, but we don't agree with what's happening right now. I mean, when I was testifying, I was saying a lot of the things that I'm saying right now, and there's a lot more to it even, and it's pretty crazy. They cut me off. I mean, they stopped court. Okay, wait. We gotta have an emergency stoppage, and we're gonna come back and let you finish this tomorrow. But there was no tomorrow. They didn't let me speak ever again. It didn't let me.
This is what we went through. These people don't understand. This is our son.
We weren't talking about
It's
that like
beautiful.
They don't get it. We tell them in court and say, you know, it's just like, and they cannot take care of him.
Okay, bud? Exactly what they said that we did wrong, they've done times 100. You know, this is all because of the medication they said that we only had 4 days with. Well, they went and picked up the new medication on Tuesday that I had. Why wouldn't you just return him there, you know? Because it was true. Obviously what I said was true. But no, it's so easy of a case to say. It's unbelievable. Like if anybody that was, you know, talks to me normally, they're like, they're thinking, you could tell, like, yeah, you probably didn't tell me something, you know, that you did or something. You probably beat up something or you know, like it couldn't just be nothing. But as we all know, I thought that too before, you know.
It doesn't just take kids away for no reason. You had to have done something.
Yep.
You can tell me it's okay.
Yep. It's so annoying to hear that though when you run through it, you know. But it's like it's not their fault though either that they think that a lot of times, you know. But man, is it so wrong? I wish everybody could just know what's happening and just riot, you know.
Hi.
Say hi, Mikey. Hi.
You're so handsome.
Thank you. Thank you. You gotta say it louder. Thank you.
How old are you?
4.
You're 4?
He's a little talker Jew.
I heard you're a big brother. Are you a big brother?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Do you miss your baby brother?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are we going to do?
Where is he?
He's at, I don't know.
He's got with the bad people. That's who he's with. See, I worry so much about like if they try to take our rights, you know, just going through the process to make sure, you know, with the higher courts and everything, that they don't try to come for him. You know, it's our worst fear. We don't answer the door. I mean,
I'm blown away that hasn't happened.
The thing is because they know that he's Indian. There's no money for this guy because when we went through a hard time and had to go to Oakland, we had Medi-Cal too because we just left everything and we had to go with our son. I mean, that's our baby. We had to go.
No, just out of curiosity, did you try getting the baby placed with somebody else, family or friend?
Yeah, my mom was at the hospital despite us not really liking my mom. She was there that night, and they said they can't do that because he's too medically fragile. So they went and they put him in a foster home with no one that has no medical training whatsoever at all, and they failed bad. You know, he got very sick there, and you know we don't know how.
Do you know that medically fragile babies, they pay a lot more?
Oh, of course. He's worth $18,000 or more a month right now, and they're committing fraud what they're doing anyways. Because I mean, there's a lot to it. I got the regional center to let me know that no, he's not in a regionally approved center. he's in a group home, you know, because I was asking them specifically, like, you guys, that's what was said in court and wrote in so many times in court, that he's in a medical facility. No, he's not in a medical facility. He's at this lady's house, you know. So there's not supposed to be kids that are not under 3 like him there. All the rules that are supposed to be followed, they're just not followed. What I uncovered, actually, is that this lady's had like 40 different addresses and most likely has a little ring of taking in disabled children or whatnot and getting, you know, getting paid for it. And so it's ridiculous, you know. It really is ridiculous. And we have some weird people that come by the house, walking by the house, because she has a lot of employees, the foster care group home that he's in right now. And she knows that I have a good idea. She knows that I know that they're committing fraud and Social Security fraud. And so we've kind of well, it's actually working though, because what we did is I wanted to let her know what we knew about her and what was going on, so she would not anymore, because they can't move him again. They already moved him without our knowledge and no written consent. Anyways, the thought.
They don't have.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm bad with that. It wasn't the hospital that moved him though. It was the agency that moved him, and they didn't tell us. But they told the court it was a regionally approved medical facility with 24-hour nurses and doctors there. So that's what we were thinking in the very beginning. We were like, okay, well, this is going to be better at least until we can get him home. And because of the contract that this woman has with the foster care administration, I guess, who's ever paying her the federal funds, she's what was I saying? Gosh, that's embarrassing. Sorry, they just walked in with food and I'm hungry, so I was looking at the food. She gets federal funding for everything that she can. But I think what I'm really bad right now. I'm so sorry, Jesus.
Don't worry.
I'm smothering this.
Let's do this. I want you to call in on Saturday, tomorrow night. I really want you to call in on the radio show.
I will. I'm sorry. I'm like out of it right now too. I apologize.
Don't worry.
Yeah, I said his name so many times and
it's all right.
I'm kind of like, yeah, but nobody ever lets me talk about it ever. I don't have no one to vent to.
I get it. Yeah. I want you to come up with some questions because you've got quite a story. Do you have a pen and paper or no?
Yes, I do. I'm ready.
All right. So number one, I want you to come up with, because you don't have time like this to be able to share your story.
Yeah.
So first of all, the phone number is 1-800-222-5222.
Okay.
And if you want people to like listen in, the website or be able to listen live is KABC Live or KABC.com, and it's 7:90 a.m. But if you're not in the area, it might not work, so you can listen in live.
Okay. And that's okay.
I want you to give like a couple of bullet points for your story,
Okay. Yeah.
He's your youngest son. So he has medical issues since he was born.
Okay.
CPS got involved and took him illegally. That there was an emergency, but there wasn't one. Yeah.
Okay. I'll definitely just put it into bullet points like you're saying. I'm sorry. I know I run on and stuff sometimes too. There's so much information, and it gets me lost on things a lot of times myself, even just writing stuff up. I got to get better at it.
Okay. So write these things down, and then that way tomorrow you can ask. So a couple of the questions, like one of them should be, how can I get him back? And say that they're trying to make you guys separate. They're illegally.
Yeah.
I would make, put that down, like about the restraining order.
Okay.
And then I would put it down that you're concerned about your other son.
Yeah.
How to protect him.
Mm-hmm.
And what can you do to get the baby out of foster care and either back with you guys or with somebody else that you trust?
Yeah. Okay. Those are good. That's good.
Amazing.
Yeah, because we did go on. We went on the show before, and he's the one that told us to call you about it. And I did make. I mean, I started just talking like my normal, just blabbering away, and he was like, I should have put everything into bullet points much better, and I will make sure I do that for him. And I do have a couple of good questions in terms of like a couple of things like for court process anyway. So that's like a habeas versus a Title 42 kind of thing. I know he's very familiar with that stuff.
Yes. Yeah, your story is incredible and crazy, and
There's a lot more too.
I'm sure. So what I want to do, when's your next court hearing? Hold on.
November 4th.
November 4th now.
Okay.
Okay.
Tomorrow, Mr. Davis can assist you guys and kind of give you some direction on either what you can do, what you need to tell your attorney to do, whatever.
Yeah.
And thing is, I can't tell you how many times I've had attorneys pick up cases by listening to the story, especially ones like yours where you didn't do anything.
Yeah, really. When we haven't, I mean, there's nothing. That would be great. We've had bad luck with some. Although the appellant lawyer, even though he's the counsel is actually pretty well. He's doing pretty good for him. He got records for me and stuff and said some good things, but wrote a very good brief up. But it's appealing the things that they've just doctored the records so well. But I'll make sure I get those questions very good and minimized too. See if I get a chance to ask them.
Perfect. Okay, let me end this. Hold on.